A bad day of fishing beats a good day of anything else.
Hey again, everybody. This is Tony Page, the fishing fanatic. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not actually going to do a whole lot of fishing, but I'm going to do a combination product review / comparison to the different electronic units that I use when I'm ice fishing. I have a Vexilar, I have a Garmin CV73, and I also have a Garmin Striker 4 unit. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages. Some have better qualities at certain things than others, which as I go through the demonstration, I will kind of show some of the differences. Just by looking at the units, though, you can see that's the FLX28. That's the Garmin CV73, and I know the camera's not probably picking up the screen very good right now. And there is the Garmin Striker 4. I've had the Striker 4 for a couple of years. It's great for hole hopping, for panfish. It's very lightweight, very compact, but as you can see, it does have a little bit of a smaller screen. The CV73 has a lot of features, a lot of functions. These two both have the LCD liquid crystal display screens on them, and this is a traditional flasher. So they all use the same basic technology as far as sonar. Sends a sound signal down to the bottom, reflects up, so it shows you where the bottom is. Then anything that interrupts that sound signal in between would either be your jig or a fish or something like that. So I will get into a little more specifics, so stay tuned. Alright, so the first lure I'm going to drop down there, it's a small rip and wrap lipless crankbait. It's probably, I don't know, this looks like maybe 1.5 inches. I don't know what the weight of it is. It's got a couple of treble hooks on it. Pretty popular setup for panfish and walleye and perch and stuff like that. So as I drop it down, if you look at the screen, see on the right hand side as it's going down, the very right hand part of the screen basically represents a vertical flasher, and everything just immediately to the left of that is just kind of showing the historical data. Now on the left hand side, I have the zoom feature set up. I'm zoomed in on about the bottom 5 feet of water right now. I'm in 14 feet of water, and you can see that crankbait bobbing up and down at the bottom there. I see a solid red line on the bottom. I'm not sure if that's a fish just showed up down there. It might just be the bottom. It's kind of a silty, sandy, fairly hard bottom right here. But you can see how that shows up very, very clearly. Again, I'm in 14 feet of water. I've used this same bait and this same flasher, in probably about 30-35 feet of water, and the clarity is still pretty close to what it is right there. It's a pretty good little unit. Alright, so I'm going to pull this up, and then I'm going to drop a little flutter spoon with an artificial waxworm attached to it. Okay, so here goes that flutter spoon down. And you see it kind of halfway showing up on the right hand side. There it is. So it's showing up on the left zoomed in portion as well. Looks like that might be a fish right down the bottom. I'm going to stop it about 1 foot or 2 above his head, see if he comes up to it. Look at that, there he is. So again, you can see when you use the split screen and the zoom, you can really get detailed as far as where you want to position your lure in relation to the fish. Again, this is just a tiny little flashy spoon. It's maybe 1 inch, 1.25 inches long, with about a 1/2 inch little waxworm on the treble hook. So kind of gives you an idea what it looks like on the screen. Alright, I'm going to pull that one up, and next I'm going to hook on a little tungsten jig head with a little soft plastic on it. Alright, so now I'm going to drop down my little tungsten jig head, a little soft plastic on it. Looks like there's a fish down near the bottom. Let's see what I can do with him. You can see this is just a little tiny jig head and a very tiny little plastic, and you can see how it's still showing up pretty clear on the screen. Not so much on the right hand side. You can see it, but again, it's just a little line down near the bottom. But when I go to that zoomed in section, you can just see how detailed you can position that jig. Again, this is 14 feet of water, and I've done this in with that same little tiny jig head in probably 30 feet of water, and you still get very good picture of what it's doing down there. So that's the Striker 4, and next I am going to step up to the Garmin CV73 unit. Alright, so now I'm going to the Garmin CV73 unit. This particular unit, I bought it as the Panoptix Ice Bundle kit, which it comes with the Panoptix transducer and handle, as well as the ice transducer. I've already done a video on the Panoptix setup itself. I'm just concentrating today pretty much on the ice transducer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down the same 3 lures that I used on the Striker 4 unit, just so you can kind of get a comparison as to how they're going to show up on the screen. Again, this is showing 14 feet of water. Okay. So there goes down the Lipless Crankbait. Now, I don't have any zoom features or anything set up on this. That's just the standard screen. And again, you can see there's a fish just showed up on the right. He's coming right at it. I don't know if he's going to hit it or not. It's not looking like it, but he might. Again, if I was doing some serious fishing right now, you know, I'd be playing with this guy and concentrating on really trying to hook him, but just a demonstration for now. Alright, so that's that Lipless Crankbait on the traditional sonar view. Now I'm going to drop down that little flutter spoon with the wax worm on it. So let's get that guy down there. It's not really, it's on its way down, but it fluttered off to the side a little bit, so it's not really showing up on the screen. There it is. Came back down below the hole. So you can see it showing up there. A little over 14 feet of water. The thing shows up pretty good down there. And now I'm going to drop down the little tungsten jig head with soft plastic. See it dropping, dropping, dropping. There it is, right down near the bottom. And well, looks like an air bubble showed up. Okay. So that's the you can see the screen difference on standard fish finder mode between the Garmin Striker 4 and the Garmin CV73. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to the flasher mode on the 2 liquid crystal units, the 2 Garmin units, and I'm going to drop the same jigs down there again and kind of get an idea how they react and how you can see them on the screen. So first, here goes that Lipless Crankbait. And again, what's showing on this particular screen, on the right hand side, that vertical column, that is showing the entire water column. Again, 14.1 feet is what it's showing. And you can see on the very far right hand side, the lure is right down near the bottom. And on the left hand side, I have it set to the zoom feature for the bottom 6 feet. And you see my lure down there, and it looks like a fish that just showed up right down below it. And then in the center is a dial, which represents a traditional flasher, which when I get to the FLX28, you'll kind of see it's going to look exactly like that. But again, this is a liquid crystal digital display. The other one is a traditional flasher, actually. So there's how the flasher setting looks on the CV73. It's pretty realistic, pretty good. What I really like about this particular unit anyway, this little area right here, it actually shows you the cone angle and the circle that you're actually viewing on the bottom. So this is a 10-degree cone angle, so it starts at 0 at the top, and as it goes to the bottom, the cone gets wider and wider. Now at 10 degrees, what it's telling me is it is painting a circle 3.4 feet across. So right at the very bottom, if there's a fish anywhere in that circle that's 3.4 feet across, it should show up on your screen. Sometimes they'll get just on the edge of that cone and you might pick up a very faint signal, but when they get anywhere inside that cone, they're going to show up as a definite mark on the screen. So that is one nice feature of the Garmin unit there. Alright, and I'm going to go right to the Tungsten Jig just to show you the difference, because obviously the flutter spoon shows up as well. There goes my Tungsten Jig down. He's about a foot off the bottom right there. Again, this is just a little tiny jig with a tiny soft plastic tail on it. And you can see how it shows up pretty clear. See if there's any fish. I mean, you saw earlier, you could definitely see target separation between the jig and the fish. Alright, so that's it for the flasher mode on the 73. Okay, so what I've done now is I set it up on a split screen combo using the traditional fish finder on the right and the flasher option on the left, just so you can kind of give a comparison. There you can see my jig going down, right down near the bottom. Again, this doesn't really have any zoom feature when you do this, but for some people that like the traditional view and the flasher, you can kind of use them both at the same time if you prefer. This is pretty good if you're in real shallow water. Anything too deep, more than about 20-30 feet, just kind of, your screen is, you're not getting real good definition. It's not zoomed in very close. You know, in 14 feet of water, I could still definitely use this to see and catch the fish and position my jig properly. So, but that's just another option. And again, this is the Garmin unit. I know Markham makes a liquid crystal display unit. I believe Humminbird does as well. And I know there's other manufacturers out there. In most of the liquid crystal display, the LCD screens, they're probably going to have very similar features as this. But this is a very good unit. I'm very happy with it. Alright, so went back to the Striker 4 and put it into flasher mode. It works okay. It doesn't have a lot of the fancy features and zooms or anything like that, but it does show your jig, it does show the lure. You know, so for die-hard ice fishermen that all they ever use is flasher mode, it is doable. Again, you can see my jig going up and down. I have the gain turned down quite a bit on this to get rid of some interference. That's one thing about the Striker 4 and possibly the other Garmin unit as well. If you're fishing near somebody who's using a regular flasher like a Vexilar, you tend to get a little bit of interference from their sonar signal coming from their transducer, and it shows a bunch of squiggly lines all over the screen. So, for instance, I have my Vexilar right here. I'm going to turn it on, and you'll kind of see that. There you go. See how it's showing a lot of little ghost flashes? I mean, it's still fishable, but sometimes it can get a little annoying. Again, I have the gain adjusted right now, so it's not too bad, but you really gotta be kind of touchy with it and get the right sensitivity set, especially if somebody has a Vexilar or something like that flashing anywhere near you. Alright, so now I am going to show my Vexilar FLX28. I'm sure there's a lot of Markham and Humminbird guys and maybe some other brands out there might disagree with me, but this is pretty much the Lamborghini of ice fishing flashers. They've been doing it for a long time. This is actually the 60th anniversary package deal that I got. So they've been around a long time, and they do one thing and they do it well. You know, the Garmin, the Humminbirds, the Markhams, you know, they all make very good products. They've kind of spread their wings a little bit, and they have, most of them have traditional flashers, some of them have the LCD screen units, but flashers is pretty much all Vexilar does. So they put a lot of time, effort, money, research into it, and they do a very good job. I've only had this thing a couple of weeks so far, but I'm very happy with it. So what I did is I just dropped down my little tungsten jig. I'm not going to spend the time on the other units, the other lures, because they show up pretty much the same way. I have my gain set way down, but you can see how clear that thing shows up. So again, what this is doing, it's representing the entire water column. This here is basically the surface. I'm in 13 feet of water. So this is actually the bottom over here. So when I raise up my jig, see that's a foot or so off the bottom. I don't know how well that's showing up on the camera. It doesn't want to stay focused on that. But what's nice about this unit as well, it has an auto zoom feature. So I can just turn the knob, click it to auto zoom 6. So what it's doing, it splits the screen in half basically. So everything on that side that you see is the entire water column, and there's my jig down near the bottom. And this over here, that half of the screen, is just the bottom 6 feet of water. So you can see each line, since I'm zoomed in on 6 feet, each line represents a foot. So there my jig's a foot off the bottom, 2 feet, and so on. So again, if there was a fish down there, really gives you the opportunity to position that jig pretty much anywhere you want. So that's just kind of what the Vexilar screen looks like compared to the LCD screens. And you know, it's personal preference. All three of my units are very good. Again, I just got the Vexilar a couple weeks ago. I've had the Striker 4. This will be going on my 3rd year, and I've caught a ton of fish with it. The other Garmin unit, the CV73, I've caught a bunch of fish on that. That's mainly, I use that when I'm setting up my Panoptics setup, and like for lake trout, it's nice because you can, basically 2 or more people can, if you line your holes up properly, 2 or more people can fish, and you can still use the same fish finder, and you can see the individual lures and the individual fish without getting all your lines confused down there. So that is basically a comparison of the units that I have. Again, the Vexilar, or what I'm calling my Lamborghini, the Garmin CV73, which that's more of a Corvette. And then I got my Striker 4, which is kind of a Chevy Chevette, if anybody remembers those, but still a very good unit. Oh, look at that. There's a fish just showed up. And again, you can see how I can position my jig very close. Oh, see his signal just disappeared? That means he wasn't interested, and he swam out of the way of the sonar cone. Alright, so I hope that was helpful for those of you deciding or trying to decide what's best for you, whether it be a regular flasher, Vexilar, a Markham, or Humminbird, whatever it might be, or one of the LCD screen units. Again, Garmin makes a very good one, which I have 2 of them. I know Markham makes some real good ones. I believe Humminbird, and there's some other manufacturers out there as well, I'm sure. But again, I hope this was helpful. And you know, everybody has their own taste. It's kind of a matter of personal opinion. If you're looking for something that's super lightweight, just for hole hopping and, you know, up to about 20-25 feet of water maybe, that Garmin Striker 4 is actually a very good unit. The CV73 is a little on the heavy, little on the bulky side. The battery, because it's made to run the Panoptics transducer, which needs its own separate power source, it's about twice the size of a standard flasher battery, so it does get a little bit heavy. The FLX28, obviously it's a very good unit. It's a little on the pricey side, so if budget is an issue, you know, maybe stay with one of the less expensive models. But if you're looking for top quality, and again, I call it my Lamborghini, that FLX28 is an awesome machine. So until next time, see you later.
A bad day of fishing beats a good day of anything